So I don't think I'll be making any videos over the next few weeks because I'm going to have family in town, but we'll see how it goes. I wanted to talk to you about a couple things that been swimming around in my head. One of them being the concept of what is a truly enlightened spiritual master? What is a spiritual prophet? What is an apostle? What is somebody like Krishna, Jesus, Buddha? What constitutes, or that's not the right way of putting it, what would have been so special to be alive during the time that those individuals were alive? Jesus said many things. I mean, it was so confusing, kind of, because he would say things like, I wish you would consider me as your friend. That would be the highest honor of all. And then other times he said, I am the Son of God. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. God and me are the same. Krishna said certain things like that. I don't think Buddha ever really said anything like that, but if he did, it was never recorded that way. And so my point in this particular video, or at least this aspect of this video, is like that. I remember when I was an active Mormon in the Mormon church, and I was always let down when they would have what they call general conference, or they would have stake missionary stake conferences and stuff like that. And you'd have one of the apostles or even the prophet of the church, and I would always go away feeling, I wouldn't say let down, but yeah, maybe I would walk away thinking, why are they not admitting to the fact that, or at least it was assumed it was a fact, that they were in constant communication one-on-one with Jesus? Because the concept of an apostle is that you and Jesus communicate back and forth because you are the mouthpiece of Jesus, because Jesus is no longer alive or whatever. Or as a prophet, you happen to be the mouthpiece of God for the world at that particular time, or whatever. Jesus was the messenger of God to the earth at that particular time. And so I would walk away from these meetings with hundreds, if not thousands of people, feeling let down, kind of like, why did they give a talk? Why did they go on and on and on? And they repeated scriptural references, and they would talk about, well, anything that you would normally talk about in Sunday school or anything else. It was just nothing spectacular, so to say. And so how do you have faith in a person that doesn't give you any indication whatsoever that there's a reason to have a faith in what that person says? Now, you can have a faith in God, or a faith, or a religion, or whatever, but how would you possibly justify having faith in this individual that never themselves says that they are the mouthpiece of God, or they never admit to being enlightened, or You know, you talk to the gurus and everything, and same story. And I know what I've read, you've read the same thing, and it always talks about, well, if you are enlightened, you know, the true sign of an enlightened individual is that they're never going to admit to it being enlightened. And yet, Jesus admitted to being the Son of God and one with God and everything, eventually, not all the time. But so clearly that isn't an accurate saying. But if you would never admit to being enlightened, that certainly would allow the fakes, the liars, the charlatans to succeed, to fool people. And so I always felt like if you are an apostle, if you truly are a prophet, if you truly are an enlightened spiritual master, then you damned well should admit to that, at least once in a while. Because if you don't, well, then it would indicate that you're not. And you might be intelligent. You very well might be able to interpret the scriptures or the Vedas or the teachings a little better than the average person, but maybe not. Who knows? Because you are bringing a message to the people that anyone can get without you being present. Because all you are doing is reading or interpreting what is already written. And there's nothing wrong with that. But don't lead people on into thinking that you're enlightened or that you are in fact not a prophet or an apostle or whatever the case may be. Maybe you felt the same way in your life. I don't know how, I mean, not very many people admit to that sort of thing. So what I'm trying to express to you right now, without crossing the line into arrogance, and honestly, I don't know how to do it, but I'm appealing to my friends who might watch this, and no matter who you are my friend, that I am enlightened. I've had numerous manifestations in my lifetime, but most recently over the last 20 years, I would say. But I've been on this path my entire life, and more than 20 years, better part of 30 years. I was just like you or anybody else, studying. I was a spiritual seeker, and I was looking for the truth. There is more for me to learn. Of course there is. But I do know what it is like to be enlightened, because I am enlightened. I am, as I said before, God enlightened. I have had communications with God. Not in the same manner that you would contemplate from a physical point of view, but it isn't imaginary either. It is real. The way I have defined it before, and I'll define it again because I don't know how many people watch my videos or how many have watched my videos in the past. So I'll repeat it again. This is what it is like to be enlightened. In a way, you know how you're awake right now and you're watching this video. And you could, a human being could be delusional, could be schizophrenic, could be mentally ill, could be brain dead. There's a lot of things that a human being could be. But a normal human being doesn't second guess themselves about being awake in the physical world right now, and doesn't think that they are dreaming. And especially when it's maybe an hour after you've gotten up in the morning and you had a dream and you remember that dream, and now you're awake in the morning and you're brushing your teeth and you're thinking about the dream you had last night. Most people, if they are normal and they're not mentally ill or et cetera, all those things I mentioned, would never in a million years contemplate, especially since the day they were born to that point in their life, they would never go, golly, am I awake? Am I still in the dream that I had last night? Most people would never do that. Most people don't need faith to understand that they are awake. Most people know that they're awake, as versus their dream that they had last night. So if you were an enlightened individual, it would be pretty exactly like that, where there's no mistaking about the dream you had last night. You know you're not in that dream anymore, and in fact, you're awake in the morning. You can pinch yourself. You can do whatever you want to do, but you know you're awake, okay? You were in a dream, and now you're awake. If you take that to a third level, you were in a dream, now you're awake, now you're enlightened. As an enlightened individual, they never assume that this reality that you're awake in right now, they know that that reality is no different than that dream that you had last night. There's no mistaking, because they're enlightened. You're not yet enlightened, so you can only imagine, you can dream, you can read books, you can listen to talks on Buddha, you can imagine what it might have been like to be Jesus, you can think of what it might have been like to be Krishna, you can imagine all these things, trying to contemplate what it is like to be enlightened. But I'm telling you what it's like. It is like this reality. I'm talking to you through a camera right now, but I know that this reality that I'm talking to you in is a dream. It isn't real. It isn't not real. I know that I'm communicating to you. I'm not communicating to nobody, but it has no tangible physical essence to it. I know that you think it is physical, but it isn't, because I'm in a different realm. I'm in an enlightened realm, and I'm speaking to you in the physical realm. That's what it's like to be enlightened. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because there is so much gaslighting in this world. There are so many liars and cheats and deceptive people and demons and everything else in this physical realm that you think is real. And it's so confusing. You just don't know. You just don't know. You contemplate, is there life after death? Is there this? You just don't know. I'm telling you from my own experience right now, sitting in a position of enlightenment, speaking to you in an unenlightened realm, that the things that they teach, meaning Jesus and all those things, they are true. Keep going on the path. That's why I'm telling you from this perspective and trying to tell you what I know to be true. The reason I'm saying this is because I want you to keep struggling, keep trying, keep loving each other, keep trying to learn more about spirituality, and I'm not denigrating the Vedas, the Bible, or anything. You're never going to become enlightened by reading those, but you're never not going to become enlightened either. You must walk the path, so to say, to gain enlightenment. And when you do, yeah, I can understand why Buddhists said it's the end of samsara, it's the end of, but yet he lived into his 80s before he died. So this particular physical reality, I'm here until this physical body dies. And when it's done, it's done. So that's kind of what I wanted to tell you. The other thing I wanted to address is one person asked me from one of my last videos, or might have been the last video, how do you know in Advaita and Dvaita, I think it's pronounced that way, Dvaita and Advaita, how do you know everything isn't God? How do you know duality is what you think is real, when in fact, what isn't God? When you ask the question, what isn't God, you really should look back at yourself and say, rather than what isn't God, what is God? What is God that you think God is that I'm saying something isn't? Because you don't know what God is. If you knew what God was, you wouldn't be asking those questions. And you're never going to know what God is in this physical realm. I said in 2 videos ago, I think, there's a very commonality in Advaita and Dvaita, in that the non-duality concept assumes that everything originates from Brahman, and Brahman is one, therefore all things are one. First off, the problem with that concept is, and it is true by the way, the problem with that concept is nobody knows what Brahman is because Brahman is nothing. And to make the, in my opinion, the bad mistake of assuming that everything is one because it emanates from Brahman is a mistake. It is a mistake because, again, you don't know what Brahman is, let alone what emanates from Brahman. So that's the concept of Advaita. Then Dvaita, meaning duality, assumes that there is duality because it looks beyond Brahman, or it looks into Brahman to be able to contemplate or to be able to understand the concept of duality. Because from Brahman forward, indeed, everything is non-duality. But when you take Brahman into the contextual understanding of all things of reality, then you have to eliminate the concept of Advaita and go back to Dvaita, because I know what it is, it's almost impossible to define. Rest assured, if you pick one of them, you will be wrong, because you don't know what they are. The last thing I wanted to cover, along with the concept of me saying that I'm enlightened and that I'm trying to help you understand the truth, the last thing I wanted to say, and I kind of touched upon this maybe 10, 20 videos ago, but I'll do it again. If there were a perfectly enlightened master, then that perfectly enlightened master would want you from your own volition, not because you're being told to, but would want you to worship the enlightened master as if that enlightened master was God. The reason the enlightened master would want that is because you would be awestruck and you would listen intently, and you would believe, and wouldn't necessarily require faith because you would believe wholeheartedly what they're teaching you, and then you would be able to transcend the ignorance of this reality. That's what they would want. But at the exact same time, no spiritually enlightened master would of them own self want you to do that. And in fact, the individual themselves would be so appalled that you would worship them that they would walk away and not have anything to do with you. And there's a reason for that. It's because when you worship the enlightened master, you're not worshiping this individual here, the spiritual essence inside. What you're worshiping is the Creator God. You're worshiping the God that Jesus prayed to through the enlightened master. And if the enlightened master were to ever accept any amount of that worship for themselves, then they would be evil and corrupt, and they would be like Satan. It is most humbling to any enlightened master when someone shows great appreciation to them. It is extremely humbling to the enlightened master. They may not act like it, and when I say they, there's not more than a few people on the planet Earth at this time that are that way. I can only think of one besides myself. And I don't know, I'm not 100% sure that he's enlightened, but I'm fairly certain that he is. Anyways, it is extremely humbling for them to be in the position that they're in, to become enlightened at an age that allows them to have a physical, healthy body and to be alive for a decade or more past the point of becoming enlightened, which means they become more and more and more mature in their enlightenment and more aware, shall I say, in their enlightenment, that every day is just another awesome day of spiritual growth for them. And they will be extremely humbled by the respect shown to them. And they are extremely cognizant of that and feel very uncomfortable in that position because they know that that appreciation isn't for them. The appreciation is for the God that they worship too. They know that. They know that. And all they are trying to do is redirect your love and your appreciation to the Creator God, and trying to bring that love and Creator God through them into you, and to try to teach you the things that apparently you want to know. And I say want because you don't really need to know any of this stuff. All you need to do is exercise love and develop your love within yourself, and to love others and to love God. That's all you have to do. You don't have to know about samadhi. You don't have to know about the Vedas. You don't have to know about what Jesus taught or anything else. You don't have to know about what I'm teaching. You don't have to know about the end of all realities. You don't have to know about the time frames. You don't have to know about any of that. You can be a simple farmer farming for sustenance for yourself and your family and never pick up a book of spirituality and never speak to a spiritual person in your entire life. And still, that will be enough. if you develop your love. So I'm not telling you or teaching you anything that you have to know. The only reason I exist and to teach you, not the only reason I exist, but one of the reasons I exist to teach through video like this is because there are people out there like yourselves that desire to know these things. I was one of them, or I am one of them. And that's why I present this way. There are people that want to know these things while they're in the physical body. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why Jesus taught the concept of all you have to do is ask, and it shall be opened. Knock, and it shall be opened. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. This is a very true concept. And blessings, massive blessings and stuff. Ask, and it shall be given. I've witnessed these more times than I can think of. Anyways, that's all I wanted to tell you for today. If you have any questions, please email me. And to my other friends out there that have emailed me in the past, continue. I will do my best to answer your questions. Thank you for watching. I love you. You guys have a good day. And gals. When I said guys and gals, the last thing, very controversial, because it's been in my head. I don't know why. Don't be fooled or gaslighted by the concept that's been going around for the past several years of all this LGBTQ and all the other things that are going on. That is the epitome of considering yourself to be a physical being rather than realizing that you are a spiritual soul that is neither male or female. And whether you are or you aren't, whatever, it doesn't matter. But in the physical body, you are what you are born. And if you want to think you're something beyond that, that's your prerogative. And I still love those people that assume to be whatever they want to be. But that is, make no mistake about it, that is the epitome of physicality. And there is no way when you are so steeped in being a physical being like that, that you're going to learn anything beyond the very basics in spirituality. You can't. It's not possible. I think along that same line, there's so much gaslighting going on about that. So I think the last thing I wanted to say about that is in this reality, we know, well, you don't know, but I do, that Satan is the god of this world. And there are well over 50% of the human beings on this planet that are in fact demons. Now, that they have a body just like you and I. The body is the exact same. It's just that what is the spirit essence within that particular body? Well, some of them are demons. And as a demon, as an enlightened demon, let's put it that way, they're here for the fun of it. They don't mind pretending to be a woman when they're a man or this or that. They don't feel embarrassed or anything, because to them, they're just here to jack with you and to screw with the world and make fun of each other and they're just, they don't care. They don't care. They'll go out and have sexual endeavors with animals and all this, whatever. They don't care. They're demons. And too often people assume that they're like you and I, like a normal human being. They're not. They're demons. And when we live in a time like today, like the Sodom and Gomorrah type days spoken of in the Bible, we're supposed to think that we're all equal and we're all the same and everything else. No, we're not. There are demons, and we're not the same. They worship a different God than we do. And so don't get caught up in all that stuff. Don't do that. Just don't do that. And when I say don't do that, what I mean is don't get sucked in on their ideology. You don't have to hate them. Never hate. But just don't get gaslit and think you're losing your mind because you can't tell, you're not supposed to be able to tell the difference between the color of the skin of another human being or their sex or anything else. Of course there's differences. And there's not only differences in the biology, but there's differences in the makeup of the brain of the individuals. But so what? Who cares? My damn cat is different than me. So what? And the cat has no mistaken identity issues. It knows it's a cat. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love you. You guys have a good day.